Are you ready to be unleashed and unstoppable?
Are you ready to experience a breakthrough and step into your next level of leadership?
Living a life of power, purpose, and possibility on your own terms, unapologetically.
This podcast is for discovering how to play big, how to be unleashed and unstoppable.
Through wiring inner success at the source as you step into your full potential as a wildly ambitious leader.
We are
Alexanne Carter and
Carol Register. We are certified Master Neurocoaches and the founders of Unleashed and Unstoppable You.
We're best known for being confidence-boosting, neurohacking, productivity, and wealth experts.
And for high-achieving leaders, visionaries, and entrepreneurs.
Now let's be unleashed and unstoppable. George Bernard Shaw, Irish writer and Nobel Prize winner of 1925, said that life isn't about finding yourself. Life is about creating yourself. On today's episode, Carol and I are so excited to dive in and talking about identity and, really getting to the real you. I know on my journey, this thought of identity or this discussion of identity, I was like, what are you talking about identity? I always identified myself by what it was that I did. And a lot of high performers, just like you, do the same thing. They let their work define their worth, and tying who they are based on what they do, not who they are. And so I know Carol wants to get us started today to share a story, which ties in a little bit of the things that we talked about in episode number 2. And so we want to invite you to really get connected and really listen in today and lean into what we're about to talk about around identity and who you are and really what it is that you get to create in yourself and just around you by being who you are.
I love that, Alex. Thank you so much. Yes, indeed. She is sharing with us the importance of who we are, right? And finding out who you are is something that I wasn't pointed to. I was never taught about my identity, not for a long time. Now I can go back and I can find the evidence for that, right? But the story that I love is from our mentor, Dr. Shannon Irvin, and it is when you're looking at a baby in a crib, you see that precious baby. Maybe it's one of your children, grandchildren, niece, nephew, best friend's baby. You don't look at that baby and say, oh, kids, you got no value, not doing anything yet. Pretty soon you'll be valuable. You look at that baby and you know that they arrived on this planet with value. So this is where we want to talk about your identity. What's your identity? What do you get to create? You matter. You have a voice that counts. And I quite often find that I was in the past, and my clients are living someone else's plan for their life.
Mm-hmm. I always say this. Well, I was going to say, I often say it to my clients, like you're either creating your vision or you're creating a vision that someone else is putting you on the path for, right? So it's like every single day, are you creating your vision or are you creating somebody else's vision? Are you living by who you are and what is the gifts that you have and what you get to create? Or are you living life by somebody else's expectations?
Yeah.
I have a 20-month-old daughter, and, when Carol and I talk about this story, I just think about like the moment that she was born. I mean, it's for those of you that have children, like it's love at first sight, right? Like that child knows that she's loved and she's enough. She doesn't need to do something to be enough. She just is born as enough. And just because of the way life is in society, we then shift away from that and now think about it's the things that we do that make up who we are. And we want to support you today in really getting back to the core root of who you are and connect with who you get to be.
That's right. And one of the things that I've heard that you may be familiar with, first time I heard it was from Gary Keller of the Keller Williams Real Estate Empire. He is a billionaire and he has such wise advice, wrote a book called The One Thing, and I'm going to recommend that book. And he taught that we live according to have, do, be. He had those words there, have, do, be. And what that is that we think, we're taught, we begin to believe and operate by, we have to have these things in order to do these things, in order to be someone, right? And it's fostered across, across many, many places in our culture. But the truth of it is, we really get to be in order to do, and the have then comes.
Yeah. Well, I'm always
paradigm shift.
I'm always thinking about, my clients all the time, and they're saying, okay, this is what I want, right? I want more time with my kids. So I need to work more to have more money to then go on vacation. And then why do you want to go on vacation? Well, I want to spend more time with them. But when we can flip it on its head, that's what kind of flip it on its head. It's like, okay, how can we take a closer look at this now? If that's what you ultimately want to have is more time with your kids, who do you get to be today? And what actions and decisions are you going to take and make to create that now? Right? Instead of getting stuck in the cycle of doing more and working more. And when I have this and I have that and I have this, to be able to create that now. And as Carol and I know, a lot of this comes down to, our brain's operating system, right? What we believe, what society taught us, what school taught us, what we heard growing up.
Yeah.
And when we can get to the root cause of that and be able to help you reconnect with who it is that you are, your identity, what's important to you, that you can truly start living that way today, now. That you don't have to wait for it. You don't have to burn out in the process or work crazy hours and travel or be away from your children just to be able to spend time with them, or to go on vacation, or to go to the gym and have health. In our first episode, we talked about, what would a level 10 in all areas of your life look like? And then working from backwards by design to be able to then create that and figure out and look at who do you get to be, so that what you get to do to then have that now.
It's so powerful, those words. And when you start to operate from that place of your identity, and you start to experience whole new things and opportunities that you never saw before. And a lot of what we've been doing has been living in the past, living our past experiences, our past families. It may be, oh, life is good for everybody else. This is as good as it gets for me. I just have to accept this. And we haven't been taught to really go inside. We can really go deep on the internal versus the external. Start with your identity. Start with who you are. And we have some exciting information to share with you, some quick action tips to share with you to help you to really start to identify yourself, right?
So what's the first thing? I was thinking right away, what is the first thing that we can help our audience with to do to support them in getting some clarity and confidence in their identity?
Well, Alex, you go through a process that I love about operating from your place of identity, your place of being. So would you dive deep into that? I'd love that.
So something that I actually do every day is, as I'm looking at, my day ahead, what I started to do as I've myself in the last couple of months really shifted more into this be, do, have, is that I'm looking at, I can usually look at the to-do list, like, oh my goodness, all the things I need to do. What I'm starting to ask myself is, who do I get to be today? So a really good example is a day that I have clients, because I tend to see most of my clients, on a Wednesday, for example. And so I ask myself, okay, so who do I get to be? How do I get to show up today to support my clients? So I get to be loving, I get to be connected, and I also get to stand for the transformation. So I get to be interruptive, right? So if I hear like a pattern or a belief that's not serving them, I can interrupt that thought pattern.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, I can go back. I was like, hey, was I loving? Was I connected? Did I stand for the transformation of my clients? And at the end of the day, those are three things that I can say yes, yes, yes. And then I can feel accomplished. Because if you're listening to this, you're probably really driven, you're a high achiever, and you're driven by the achievement, and it feels good to do all the checklists. And most likely what happens to you at the end of the day is you're most likely focusing on all the things that you didn't do instead of looking at what you did do. And so by able to shift into looking at who you are as a being, as a person that can support you. You know, I had a mentor of mine a couple of weeks ago share this, and I will never forget it, especially working with a lot of high achievers on productivity. It's like, are you a human doing or a human being?
Yeah.
And we get so caught up oftentimes in the mechanics of things, right? And like talking about like your work defines your worth. It's all the doingness, but who are you?
Right.
You know, like what are all the different, you know, roles that you play? And are you letting those roles define who you are? Right? Like as a mom, for example, right? Like you can easily wear this mom hat and now you have expectations for yourself. And then people outside of you, maybe they have expectations of you as how they see you as a mom and the role that you're supposed to be playing. Yeah. But if you connect with just who you get to be as a mom, right? I get to be loving and caring with my daughter. That's really ultimately all that matters. But we get caught up in all the having, and we get caught up in all the doing. We get caught up in all these external expectations and the, you know, we speak also sometimes in the broken corporate model, right? The broken model of this whole thing of like have to be, when it's really like, if you're looking at sort of simple and a little more ease, is to get back connected with who you get to be. How are you showing up? And I think where this stems from, and I would say even just with my daughter Abigail, it came from looking at values.
Yeah, that's right. If you've never heard this concept, and we know that it may be new to you, completely new to you, you can really look at your values. Have you ever listed your values? Have you ever named them? So what we would love for you to do is literally this week, look back at the success that you wanted to create that we referred to in episode 1, right? And then in episode 2, we're bringing up, you get to write down any of the limiting beliefs that you have noticed that tie in with those roots of, am I loved or lovable? Am I worthy? Am I safe? And looking at your identity, who do I get to be to create what I want to create? Think about maybe just your top 3 to 5 values. What are those? And are you able to create from that place of who you really are?
Yeah. And sometimes it's even thinking about some of your non-negotiables, if you've heard that before. Like when you think about what's important to you, and you think about your family, you think about values, you know, is family important to you? Is your health important to you? Is travel important to you? Is philanthropy important to you? Is generosity important to you? Integrity,
you know, accountability, organization. What's valuable to you? What's meaningful to you? Is kindness important?
Honesty, trust.
Is power important?
Yeah.
You know?
Serving.
Yeah.
Right. Impact, right? Really, because the important thing, what I find and how I also support and coach clients, when you're clear on your values, when you're clear on what's important to you, when it comes down to making certain decisions on, being productive and where you're going to be spending your time.
On the mechanics.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
have the values that support you. It's like, it's your North Star, it's your guiding light, which is
Yeah.
why it's so important to know what's clear to you, because we live in a really fast-paced world, right? Opportunities are coming at you all the time. And so it can become very overwhelming, and you can easily lack clarity when you don't know where you're going and you don't have that sort of North Star being able to guide you to where you want to go. And that's why we do put an emphasis on really getting clear on what is important to you, right? Have you taken a second to define what success looks like to you? Because when you are clear on how you want to be feeling, how you want to be living, your values, what's important to you, you then can make decisions, then take the actions that are in line with that. And when things come up to you that are not in line with what it is that you want to be creating, you feel empowered, right, to say no to things that are just not in line with the life that you want to be creating, the business that you want to be creating, the success that you want to be creating, and how you want to spend your time outside of working. Because as high achievers, we know that it's in you to want to work all the time. And at the same time, right, if we want to prevent this burnout, there's also, some filling up the buckets in other areas of your lives. And I don't know about you, Carol, but I personally love to travel. So I'm definitely driven by being able to create the time and flexibility to be able to travel and work from anywhere. And I think that that's one of the reasons why we put this podcast together, to help you truly build that life, and being clear on your values, and being able to detach your identity to what it is that you do.
Yeah.
And connect with who you are is I think one of the first steps in being empowered to create that life and business, right, on your own terms, and unapologetically, and be unleashed and be unstoppable.
And be unstoppable. That's right. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Being unleashed and unstoppable. And you have way more power than you realize. And a part of it is knowing who you are. So, Alex, this has been amazing. I'm so glad we got to bring this to you today. Remember the action step that we're giving you to help you in this process of being unleashed and unstoppable. And write down, who do I get to be today? Top 5 ways. 3 to 5 ways are important, but I encourage you to go for 5. And the values, right? What are your top values? Is freedom a value? Is peace or joy a value? And so, Alex, thank you for this today. Please make sure that you hit the subscribe button. Please follow us. We're so excited that you're here with us. And you can find us on the socials. Our socials will be listed so that you can reach out, DM us, ask for any questions. We're full on committed to you being unleashed and unstoppable.
One thing I just want to add before we wrap up here, Carol, because you just said something there that kind of triggered something for me, is when you're clear on your values and you are making those declarations, like first thing in the morning, is to ask yourself, because it was when you said joy, right? I'm hearing this a lot lately. Like, I want to experience more joy and more happiness. So my question to you is, what are you doing in the day to create joy? What are you doing in the day to create that happiness? What are you doing in that day to create freedom, right? So what is one action step that you're taking in the day to create that? Because it's about building new patterns, right? You've operated up until now a certain way. And now that we're inviting you to get clear on your values and get clear on who you are. Now the next step, right, the beads you have, right, is to now be able to take a committed action step towards creating that joy, that happiness, the freedom, the love, the connection. So I just wanted to put that in there, as you guys are, getting, because our brains love you to get into action. So that's something that will support you in being able to define those values and then get into committed action. So thank you so much for tuning in to another episode. We will see you all next time. Bye. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Unleashed Unstoppable podcast with your hosts, Alexandra Carter and Carol Register.
If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and review and subscribe.
That's all for this episode, Wildly Ambitious Leaders. See you next week.